Hey guys, how's it going? It's Heart Pirates TCG here. What I got for you today is a video that I was coaching my friend on, and he was having a lot of trouble into Katakuri, and he said that he did everything right in this game, and it felt like he still lost. And I was like, yeah, let's check it out. I mean, sometimes that's the case, right? Sometimes you do everything right in the Katakuri and you still lose. But this wasn't one of those times, and I was able to point out a lot of things that he could have done much differently that could have actually won him the game. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that if he played correctly, it was impossible for him to lose the game. And yeah, I think even with all the triggers that this Katakuri got off his life in the very beginning, he was still in a position to win the game. And it's a little unfortunate that he was, making these mistakes. But of course, when you make these mistakes and you have someone review them that obviously knows the matchup maybe a little bit better than he does, you can see some things you never saw before, and now you can actually correct those things and play a lot better in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and point this out. There are two games. I'm only going to post one. The other one's going to be on my Patreon. I know you guys are like, Patreon, you guys don't do Patreon. I do now because I was doing YouTube membership and it wasn't giving anybody the option to sign up for YouTube memberships. It just wasn't even there on like the YouTube app. It might be there on desktop, but I'm not entirely sure. So, I think it's just better because YouTube just obviously doesn't have like the integration perfected yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and do Patreon. I'm going to post the second video of me reviewing the second game on there. I'm going to try to do stuff. If you guys want to send me clips as well, I'll try to do something like that maybe once a week on my Patreon or maybe twice a week on my Patreon, as well as my OPO6 stuff, meta testing, rogue decks trying to make better, maybe some crocodile stuff, maybe some Kaido stuff. So obviously, yeah, we'll do a lot of stuff on that on Patreon. Now this is my full-time gig. I'd like to obviously put a lot of work into that to reward the people that have been supporting me for, at least either for a long time or, if you just want to support me now, that'd be great. So obviously every little bit helps because obviously without, you guys buying my playmats or watching my videos or donations or whatever it is, I wouldn't be able to do this full time. And, I want to, now that this is something I can do for a while, dedicate a lot of time and give back to you guys in terms of like content and just like good videos overall for both the people that supporting me on extra on Patreon and just you guys for YouTube in general. So I'm gonna stop yapping and I'm gonna go ahead and go over to the scene real quick. And I'm gonna go ahead and play the video. So the very first mistake, just like I'm gonna point out like my yellow purple crocodile video, the very first mistake actually comes in the very first part of the game. He goes ahead and uses his leader effect and he trashes this great eruption right here. The play right here is to trash the Hina because you're on the even curve, right? So you're going 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You're not gonna just hard play the Hina most times. Like it's just not in the game plan going second. So this is the most useless card in your hand right now. The Hina, the Lucci could very well come in handy later on if you play like a pudding into like a Parasparrow or something like that. You can KO both, especially since he doesn't have the Hound Blaze. So he's gonna go ahead and trash the Great Eruption, which very well could come in handy later on. And he gets an Ice Age with his brand new, and he's going to go ahead and pass right here. So he's going to go ahead and play the Parasparrow, and he's not going to attack, which means he has the Gadatsu in hand, and he's worried about a Kuzan. So it's smart right here to play this Borsalino, right? When I first showed him the video, I told him that he should have just popped the Parasparrow with the Lucci, but because he's representing Gadatsu, it's actually better for him not to play the Lucci here. It's better just to play the Borsalino, and that was my mistake when I first told him that. So if you're watching this, buddy, you were right on this play right here. Although I will say he doesn't have a lot of counter in hand, so him doing this right here I think is actually the worst play he could make, right? Because he probably wasn't going to play the Gadatsu, and getting this Borsalino off the board, he's not going to play the Gadatsu most likely to kill his brand new, and getting this Borsalino off the board is probably slightly more important than like playing the Gadatsu. I mean, it depends on what he wants to do, but a lot of people will prioritize like more aggro with Katakuri rather than like filling up a board, especially because you can easily just, he saw you he saw you had the Ice Age, so he could easily just like, whatever he plays is probably just going to die either way, so he might as well just get some cards off the board. So I think this was a little bit of a mistake. I would have taken this first hit right here because now he can just load up his Parasparrow and then he can just kill the Borsalino. And against Katakuri, it's best to have bodies that can just go wide, especially something like Borsalino, because it's just a 5k body swinging into them every single time. And when you're able to swing into them, especially because the Katakuri only has 5 cards in hand, right? So he doesn't have a lot of cards in hand. So when he does that, and he constantly swings with like Borsellino or like this brand new with the Hound Blazers attached to it, or even a 5k brand new. He's constantly either doing life or taking cards out of their hand, and that way when they play the 10 cost Big Mom, they're not at like 5 life. That's so devastating. If they go from 4 life to 5 life with a Big Mom, it feels like you just can't win the game. It's just a really hard position to be in. Of course you can win the game, but it's just tough. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the video. He's gonna use the rest of his 2 Dawn to do literally nothing. He's not gonna attack with the Cracker, even though obviously he knew he had the Ice Age in hand, which I think is just a little bit weird. He's not getting any value from it. So right there, he also trashes the wrong card right there. He trashed the brand new instead of trashing the Hina again. I think the play is just 100% just play. What is it called? Just trash the Hina and then look for. I mean, he's not going to play the brand new here, but you know the brand new is a 1k counter, which could come up, and I'll tell you why in a second. And I know like a lot of this guys isn't hindsight, because whenever I was talking to him, he came over to my house and we kind of looked at it on his laptop. And the second I saw it, I was like, you probably shouldn't have trashed that brand new right there, because sometimes like Sakazuki is a deck that doesn't have a lot of counter, especially he's only playing the version that has 8 2Ks, right? So when he's playing that version, like every counter matters, especially into an aggressive deck like Katakuri. So like not trashing the Hina twice now is just, I feel like it's just been a little bit of a mistake. And I feel like that 1k counter really could come up, and it's going to come up in a second, or at least the potential for it to come up is going to come up in a second. So he's going to go ahead and take his life again, and he's going to trigger into a freaking Parasparrow. So this guy's had double triggers, double like attack triggers as soon as the from his first 2 life, which is just really stupid, because he didn't even look at it. Like he didn't look, and he didn't know that obviously that was coming up. So he did the right play here and played the Lucci to pop both those, and he draws into a 7 cost Linlin right here. Now, what he's going to play this Gadatsu right here, but he should have just played the Linlin, because obviously like it's much harder to deal with. It's much easier to deal with like a Gadatsu and a Parasparrow rather than like a Linlin and, you know, like a 5k swing, at least in my opinion. So he's going to go ahead and pop the Lucci. He's going to swing 6 at life and 7 at life. I think it would have been okay to maybe take this as well. But you know, going down to that little cards isn't too bad, because he's going to be at 8 next turn, and he's going to go ahead and play the Kaido the turn after. So he's not going to be down too far in card advantage, because he's just going to play the Kaido. So I don't necessarily hate him countering it there, but I wouldn't mind it either. So he's going to go ahead and make the wrong play to trash a character again. He's going to trash the Lucci instead of playing the Kuzan. And the reason that this is a mistake, guys, is because right now the Kuzan, like your next 3 turns are accounted for, right? So if you think about it like this, his play right here is to put a Dawn on Sakazuki, attack into life, put the Parasparrow at 2 Dawn, hard play Hina, hard play Lucci, right? And that's going to clear the board, and then obviously all day 8 Dawn is used. After that, the best play is Kaido. And then usually after Kaido, the best play is Rebecca Hina Lucci in some aspect, right? Ice Age, Rebecca Hina Lucci, Great Eruption, Rebecca Hina Lucci, whatever it is. So none of those plans include the Kuzan. But if he Rebecca Hina Lucci's, he's not going to have Rebecca or Hina in his hand after he plays them right now. So if he draws into Kaido, or if he plays Kaido and only draws into Rebecca, and he doesn't draw into Hina or a Lucci, he can't actually use the effect, because he's missing a piece of the puzzle. He's missing a Hina and or a Lucci. So that's a mistake right there. He's going to play the Lucci way sooner than he plays the Kuzan, and because this is just a mistake. He's going to keep that Kuzan in his hand for way longer than he should, and then it could, like I said, come up. It doesn't come up to bite him, at least that I can see, but it very well could. And we want to eliminate as many possible misplays as possible, because obviously those can really just change the game, and for the worse. So he's going to do, like I said, the best play right there, and hard play Hina, hard play Lucci, and now he's down to 4 cards in hand. And he's going to do the smart thing here. He does the right play here. He's going to grant the opponent the life, because if he trashes the life and takes the 7k or possibly 8k, then he's going to just go down to 1 life, and it's going to be very scary to play Kaido. But he does the right play. He has 3 attacks next turn. The guy only has 5 cards in hand. The odds of him countering out of all of them so he can't play Kaido are pretty low. And even if he does that, I feel like that's like just not the best play. So he's gonna go ahead and take that life right there. He's gonna swing 5 and 5, which I don't hate, right? Just like, getting cards out of his hand. I think this was a little bit scary swinging 5. But I don't hate it either. It's a little scary swinging into Katakuri, especially because he's obviously trigger happy this game. So he plays the Kaido right here, and then he's gonna discard the Kuzan just a turn too late, personally. And this now at the end of the game, like, let me go ahead and pause it real quick. So at the beginning of the game, there's not a whole lot of things that you can do wrong. It's usually just cycling, with Sakazuki at least. But at the end of the game, there's a lot of things he does incorrectly, that he doesn't play around triggers. He puts himself in bad positions. He doesn't do low dawn commitment attacks, and it ends up screwing him, right? And I talked to him about it, and I was like, why are you playing so fast? Like, you can slow down the game. He's like, I feel like the second I'm at 0 life, I have to kill him as soon as possible. And I'm like, that's not necessarily wrong, but you know, with your deck, you have to, like, especially when you have the Rebeccas and you have the Sabos, like, you can just practice a little patience, and the patience will get you super far. And this is right after this turn, this is when he starts actually getting very impatient here, and I'll show you why right now. Or I'm sorry, I'll show you why after this turn. So he does the right play. Of course, he's going to play 10 cost Big Mom right here, so he's going to counter out of all of these attacks, so that obviously he doesn't, you know, he still has the constant pressure, which is good. He's going to do the right play here and use the Great Eruption first, see what he gets, which is good. Draws into another Great Eruption, which is obviously what you need. And I will show you exactly what happens in a second. So he's going to swing into the Linlin, which is the right play. And this whole turn is normally good, except for he's a little overzealous here. He swings 5 at life, and then he swings 6 at life, and the guy goes ahead and counters out. So this is when I wouldn't attack at all. This is when if he takes the 5 and it's not a counter, I probably wouldn't attack into him again, because now you're risking trigger territory, right? He already got rid of, he's already played a couple triggers, of course, but he still has so much left. He has 4 Sanjis, he has Parasparrows, he has Crackers, he has Satoris. There's a lot of things in his life that could actually really, really hurt our Sakazuki player. So him attacking into him, he didn't get punished on this turn, but he very well could have, because if he would have played a trigger blocker and then played the Rebecca like he's going to do on this turn, then he would get super hardcore punished, because he can just get hit with a Thunderbolt and then the guy could go for game. He can go for 10 and 11, and our Sakazuki player doesn't actually have enough to counter out of that. So obviously it didn't happen, but it could have. And obviously we want to play around as much possibility as possible while also being somewhat realistic. So he's going to Rebecca Hina Lucci, which is the right play, right? And replace the Hina with the Lucci. And then he's going to go ahead and pass. And this is a good position to be in. This is really good. Although I will say he needs to start using his leader effect before the end of his turn, because obviously you want to play with perfect knowledge. You want to understand the best your deck can do at a time. So yeah, that's it. So he's going to go ahead and swing 5. He's going to counter out with the Suru, but it should have been the Sabo. So obviously with the Sabo, he just brings it back, right? So now we get to the turn where he really starts messing up. He really starts making a mistake because he thinks that he's on the clock, which he kind of is, but he can play very patient here. Here's what I would do. Let me go ahead and break it down for you guys, all right? So what I would do personally is I would attack with my 5s and 6s to see what happens, right? If he doesn't trigger into anything, if he counters some of them and then takes a couple more, like let's say he takes like 1, maybe 2 life, and doesn't trigger into anything, then all I do is play Rebecca and Sabo and put the Rebecca and Sabo over the Hina and the Lucci, right? Now you have 3 blockers, and he's at either 2 or 3 life, not at 1 life, and you have 3 blockers, all that can't be Thunderbolted. You have way more cards in hand than him, and you can just easily chump block the remainder of his attacks, right? You can chump block the Linlin, and you can chump block the 7 cost, the Katakuri leader attack, and then you'll still have a Lucci, a Sabo, a Kaido, and a leader, right? That's 4 hits. I'm sorry, 4 attacks the next turn, and he has double Hound Blaze, right? So even if he does trigger into something on the crackback, he has enough with the Tashigi and the Hound Blaze to get rid of a trigger blocker, and he has 2 more attacks than the guy has life. So the odds of him being able to survive are very, very, very low. So he's just not playing patient at all, and he messes up right here. We want to do a load on commitment attack, right? Right now, you have no possible way of killing the Katakuri right here. You have a possibility, right? But it's pretty low. It's very low. He basically has to do 5 attacks because he has 1, 2, 3, 4 life, and then obviously last hit. And then if he does all 4 of his life, he'll have 7 cards in hand, and then he has to do the last hit as well. So like he could either easily counter out, or this could be a Sanji, it could be a Beige, it could be a Maru, it could be a Thunderbolt, it could be a lot of things to stop him, right? So like killing him is not feasible. So what you need to do is load on commitment attack for 5, attack for 6, see what he does. And if he counters out, great. Now the next turn you can easily do all of his life because he has like one card in hand. You can easily just math him out of the game and just win straight up. But he does the worst thing possible, and he swings with 2 Dawn on the Hina just to see what the guy is going to do. Now, if he wanted to do a low Dawn commitment attack for 7k, he should have just put 1 Dawn on the Lucci. That way he's even playing around the Thunderbolt too. But he doesn't, because if you put 1 Dawn on Lucci, obviously what would happen is he would just, like, if he takes it, he can just play, like I said, Rebecca and Sabo if the guy keeps countering out of stuff. But he gets super aggressive into his life. And this is just not the position, this is not a good position to be in, because if this is a trigger right here, what happens is he just, if he has an Amaru in hand, or I'm sorry, or a Thunderbolt, either one, then he just automatically wins like straight up. So he attacks 6 into his life, and he attacks 5 into his life, and he's just going to go ahead and take it. And guess what? Hold on, damn dramatic effect. It's a Sanji. So now look at it, guys. Now he has, I mean, I guess technically what he could do is he could Tashigi and double Houndblaze, but even then the Rebecca's only attacking for like 7, I want to say, because Tashigi's 3 and then Houndblaze is 5. So he has 8 Dawn left at his disposal. So plus 3. So then he'd have 5, 7. Yeah, so yeah, Rebecca's only attacking for 7k. He has 3 cards in hand. It's definitely not guaranteed. It very well could. He discarded a 1k counter too with the Sanji, so he probably has either a 2k and a 1k or multiple 2k, so he probably can't get out of it. So what happens is now he has 3 attacks and 1 life. So now he's playing into a Thunderbolt and an Amaru. Either one will win him the game, because he's just going to play Rebecca, and then he's going to go ahead and play the the Borsalino from his trash, right? And of course he's playing perfectly into a like I said, a Amaru or a Thunderbolt. So what he should have done was just leave him at 2 life, because he only has 4 cards in hand at that point, right? And if he leaves him at 2 life, he can't Amaru him, and he only has 2 attacks, and you have 3 blockers. You have double Rebecca, and then you have the Sabo, none of which are able to be put in Thunderbolt range. And then even if he Thunderbolts, he has to Thunderbolt and Amaru just to rest 1 of them, and then obviously he has to have 2 of them because he has to rest double Rebecca for him to get through, right? Which is just statistically very unlikely. So he messed up right then and there, because obviously now he lets him get a Sanji out on the board, and then he plays perfectly into a Maru. So guys, I will say, towards the end of this video, I know this is like the end of the video. I know I've yapped a lot, and I yap a lot in all my videos, and I'm glad that you guys appreciate it. But there's so many ways that you can lose to Katakuri, and there's very few ways to beat Katakuri. You have to go very aggro in the beginning of the game. But at the end of the game, you got to slow it down, bro. You got to slow it down. So once you get to the point where you've already controlled the board, you need to start walling off with like Mon Cherie, Rebecca, Sabo, Borsalino, all of these cards. And then you have to start slowly killing them and playing around all the triggers until you can pretty much all but perfectly have game, right? Lethal, like all but like guaranteed have lethal, and then you go for game, right? Because if you keep treating like Katakuri, if you keep treating Katakuri like he's a deck that's just gonna instantly kill you no matter what, you're just making yourself an easy victory for them, because they're just going to trigger into a bunch of stuff that obviously you don't have the answer for, and then they're going to catch you off guard with an Amaru or a Thunderbolt or something along those lines, and you're going to lose. So long story short, this guy had every possible way of beating this Katakuri, and he punted at the end. And I know a lot of people that I've seen, at least at locals or online or even in Treasure Cup streams, right, or regional streams, do this exact same thing. And I think that if less people did this, yellow wouldn't be nearly as good. Of course, yellow is really good, right? The triggers are really hard to play around, but I see a lot of yellow players get free wins because people don't play around the right cards, right? Or like don't leave them at 2 life, even though they have massive hand, like, or a massive board and hand control and board control, and like they just keep giving them cards because they think that, like, you know, even with the healing that the Big Mom has, like, they think they can't get through, but they can a lot of times, especially when they have very few cards in hand. So yeah, guys, that's it. If you guys want to see the second video, it's on my Patreon. I'm going to be posting it probably tonight, and then obviously you guys can kind of check it out. You can check it out there. But yeah, guys, this is a cool video. If you guys like these videos, let me know. I'm going to keep trying to do this maybe once a week, maybe once every other week on my main YouTube. And then if you guys really like it, I'll post more on my Patreon. That way I can kind of give you guys some more breakdown analysis and whatnot. So yeah, much love to you guys, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Peace.